Welcome, entrepreneurs. Are you struggling to speak English because you think it's not good enough? Well, think again because today's guest has brought with her the stories of people who are able to make great business by knowing only a handful of words in a foreign language. By the end of this video, may realize that you can speak English better than you give yourself credit. My today's guest is a business English teacher, and she specializes in helping ambitious entrepreneurs speak English with confidence. Welcome, Edita Bandur, to Eduza Show.
Hello, thank you for the lovely introduction. It's great to be here.
It's great to be here with you, Edita, because you are the reason why this live video podcast is speaking English today for the first time, and it's a great pleasure to finally be the host of my own show in a foreign language. And what better guest to have for this occasion than you, Edita? Please introduce yourself so that our viewers and our audience can learn more about you.
I'm really excited that we're launching a Duza show in English as well. I think you guys really deserve a wider audience. I'm Edita Bandur. I'm a business English teacher, and I focus on entrepreneurs and freelancers and people who feel like entrepreneurs, because I've been getting messages from people who really love learning and also have sales and networking and such activities as part of their daily lives, even if they're not owners of their own businesses. I focus on confidence, and I focus on using the tools that you already have so that you can make something happen.
Amazing. And I've realized by talking to you during our many interviews in the past that you don't really have to speak perfectly, that you can draw the confidence from what you already know from your existing vocabulary. And this is going to be today's topic. You're going to tell us that actually mistakes are good, that we can learn from them. We will talk about how to learn English, whether to learn it in a group or in a one-on-one setting. And we're going to start with perfection, which is something that I'm proud to say that I'm a person who is trying to be less perfect, to tone down that drive for perfectionism. So let's start with that. Why is perfection stopping us from speaking English well?
Um, People have this ideal in their head of what kind of speakers they're supposed to be before they can actually show it to other people. And first of all, these ideals are not realistic. They're normally about a certain accent or a certain persona, maybe a BBC or a CNN host, maybe one from 20, 30 years ago to that as well. And this is not realistic. This is not what English is these days. English is a global language, it's everyone's language. And it's a tool to connect globally, not just to do business and make money, which is our goal as entrepreneurs and business owners, but also to make connections, to learn, to have access to a lot of information that's out there that's sometimes exclusively in English. And if we first ignore this ideal for a moment and focus on what our goals are as entrepreneurs and what we want to do. We want to sell a service, we want to sell a product, we want to expand our network, we want to write something in English so that we are more visible in search engines, for instance. None of these require perfect English. Especially when we're talking about writing these days, you know, you have so many tools to help you. So if you're waiting for perfection, you're really missing out on, you know, a 10-minute check in a tool that can help you polish whatever you're trying to say. Besides that, people don't connect with perfection. Perfection is intimidating. Perfection is not what's going to drive people to you, because they might go, this is too big for me. This is not my, area of comfort. And this is something I've experienced myself working in tourism. If you speak English at a certain level in Croatia, at least at the seaside, people have no clue what you're talking about. It often happens with my students that they tell me, yeah, when I speak with other non-native speakers, yeah, we find our way through communication, we get to a common ground. But when I speak to native speakers, I get confused. I have no clue what they're talking about because they're not accommodating, because they're in some less flexible universe. So that can also be something holding you back. That's actually an advantage, that you are speaking to other non-native speakers most of the time, which is what English is these days. It's mostly between non-native speakers as well. So first of all, it's not realistic. Secondly, it's not practical. And thirdly, I think we all know psychologically, if you go into perfectionism, then anxiety is going to take over. And then you're going to end up missing out on a lot of opportunities. And these opportunities can really be reached with a few words of English sometimes.
Hmm. And there's a great story that you can tell us about people who literally, not figuratively speaking, but literally speak only a handful of words of a foreign language and they still manage to do business. Please tell us the story.
Yeah, this is one that people from Croatia are going to relate to, I'm sure. As I mentioned already, I worked in tourism for many years when I was a student. And I worked with local apartment renters. And what they would do, they would be faced with a client or with a tourist who speaks, I don't know, Polish, Hungarian, German, English. And they would come and say, yeah, I speak all of those languages. And then they would use their hands, their feet, 3 words of English, 1 word of Polish, 1 word of Hungarian, and people would buy their service. People would come and stay. And I've seen those deals before my very eyes. It's very rare, actually, that a certain generation of Croatian people speaks English at the Croatian seaside at a high level, but they manage and they make money.
Mm. So my idea is if those people can speak with confidence by knowing 20 words, I imagine there's people watching us who are much better speakers with really rich vocabulary and also experience in speaking and writing English who may lack the confidence to start. Um, I want to say hi to everybody who's watching, and I'm not saying your English is not good enough. I'm just saying hi. Here's Juraj Fleiss watching us, I believe from Germany. Hello, Juraj. Thank you for watching. And hello, we're welcome Barbara to Eduza show. Welcome, Barbara. Please let us ask you a question for today's show. Are you waiting to be good enough in English to speak well enough? So tell us in the comments how is your self-assessment of your own English and whether you are confident enough to speak or to write. Um, okay, so before we go on, let me just announce that. Let's please people, if you see or hear something that has made you think about your English or make a little step toward making speaking it better, please like and subscribe on YouTube because this video will find its audience to people who need to hear it and see it. So perfection. Let's go back to those mistakes, Edita. Please, you have told us that people do not care if some people do not care if they make mistakes in English, and your message is that actual mistakes are gold. Why is that?
Well, if we think about it for even a second, I think any skill that we've learned, anything that we've accomplished in our life was an instant. So that's something to remind ourselves of. Think about one thing in your life that you're really good at now. I bet you didn't just wake up one day and you were perfect at it. There was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of things that maybe today make you cringe, but they got you where you are today. And that's true for my English. That's true for your English. That's true for are Croatian. you know, you start with a few words, you start with awkward sentences, and then you kind of grow into a language. And without these mistakes, if you're focusing just on the final result, you won't allow yourself to practice. You won't allow yourself to experiment, which is how language is learned, which is how anything is learned.
Mm.
And I like to tell a story about this as well, because, like you, I also have this perfectionist trait. And it started from when I was very little. When I was in elementary school, I was a straight A student. I was very used to getting A's and getting those papers with very little red ink on them, very few mistakes. And I was very proud of that. And at the same time, I was quite good at English from the start. I was very interested in it. And I liked writing. And I remember maybe third grade, second grade, I'm not sure exactly when, but I recall one instance where we had a homework assignment and I got it back with feedback, and the whole page was covered in red ink. The whole page. Like, I was shocked. What is this? You get that negative reaction immediately. But at the same time, there was an A. I got the highest mark and nothing seemed to be correct. And I asked the teacher about it, and she told me, you're using so many complex words. You're really trying to express your thoughts here. You're using vocabulary that we haven't even talked about. You're trying to use structures. Maybe they're not perfect, but you're really trying to use something that you've obviously heard and you want to test it out. And this is an A effort. And I remember this story whenever I'm really bad at something and struggling, and oh, why can't I be like this person who finds, I don't know, marketing easy? That's my bane of existence at the moment. Then I try to remember this story. Okay, maybe this is all covered in red ink and it's not perfect, but it means I'm trying. I'm motivated. I'm experimenting. And it means that if I persist, this is going to lead somewhere good.
You have made me think about my own story from high school that I haven't thought about for like 20 or more years. We had French in high school, and I remember our French teacher downgrading a student because she used the words we haven't learned about before. So I was thinking, oh my God, she made the effort, she experimented, and she didn't get an A, she got a B. And I remember her being so sad that day because she really, really tried. Yeah, I don't know why I thought about this now. It's been buried for like many, many years. But yes, please, teachers, be. I'm sure, Edita, that you and in your teaching that you are not like my French teacher, that you're more like your teacher.
Yeah, we all have wounds from teachers like that. And I think most of us teachers are at least partly motivated by these experiences, just as we are with these positive ones that I've just mentioned.
Absolutely. We have people in the audience clapping and speaking about their English experiences. Anna Alexenko is here with us. Hi there, Anna. Tell us where you're watching us from. Mike Lorena is here. Hopefully, I'm not butchering your last name. He says, "Let's keep spreading positivity, and a high-level education." Exactly. Hello, Mike. Thank you for watching. Juraj is commenting on his English skills. He says his English is almost as good as native, usually mixed with some German words. I love this. I love several languages in one sentence. What do you think,
I want to
Edita?
say something about that.
Yes.
Native is not a level.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a proficiency level. Native speakers come in all shapes and sizes. I'm sure you can think of your first language and put yourself in a category.
Mm.
Most of them, actually, when faced with English language tests from Cambridge, would score less than you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
think about it. Don't hold that as a standard.
Mm. So there's actually a thing in your business Can you speak about the that? How should I say it? It's a phenomenon. It's native speakerism. What does that mean? It's connected with having a native speaker as a standard of English language proficiency.
It's this conflating the idea that perfect language is native and that somehow native speakers first make good teachers automatically. So think about yourself, Ishna. Would you be a good Croatian teacher?
Absolutely
I
not.
certainly wouldn't.
No.
Right. So a lot of us in the industry, unfortunately, get discriminated against native speaker teachers, sometimes with no or very little qualifications, against our sea of qualifications. We are often overqualified because we try to prove ourselves to a market that is not very gentle to us. I see Mary's in the comments. She's an expert on this topic. But what I would like to add about this, this is not just a problem for us teachers, it's a big problem for our students because they get it in their heads that they need to sound a certain way, that they need to adopt a certain accent before they open their mouth and dare to speak English. And that's ridiculous. Be proud of your accent. It shows your knowledge and it shows your growth.
Mm. Me as a person, I personally love certain accents of certain regions in the world that I find absolutely beautiful. People from Africa speak such beautiful English. I love listening to it from certain countries in Africa and also in the Middle East. They speak English I can understand. They can understand me. I can understand them. It's a personal preference, but do you have certain regions in the world that you think speak beautiful English?
I can't say I can separate. There are accents that I hear that make me feel at home,
Mm,
like Spanish or Italian varieties, because I lived there and because I have friends from these regions. So sometimes they remind me of sweet people that I know. Obviously, are Slavic. If I can hear, oh, this is a Slav, this is somebody who might have some common ground with me. But I think all accents are beautiful. What's important is that we are understood, as you mentioned, right? And we are going to have a preference towards those people that we understand a bit better, that we can relate to. That's a psychological truth
yeah,
and something that training by speaking to different people can make us appreciate more accents.
yeah.
And that's what I would love people to do.
Yes, and Mary says that you're doing a great, excellent job educating others. So thank you, Mary, for supporting our guest today. Anna is watching us from the sunny Georgia. Hello to Georgia. I don't think we've ever had a member of the audience from Georgia. So hello there. And Darko tells us that his German teacher hated him for his phrases from German TV shows, as she used to only Hochdeutsch and didn't understand what he was saying. Darko was annoying people from when he was little.
Good. I support that fully.
Yes, 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 me too. Barry Cooper is with us. Hello, Barry. He says, interesting discussion. As a school director, I'm keen to encourage language learning of all types as we actively seek out teachers from around the world. Yes, Barry. From the last time we could. Let me
We
see.
could tell,
We could
probably.
tell from our staff had 21 languages between them. Wow, 21
Nice.
languages.
Well
Yes.
done.
Well done, Barry. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the following topic. We are going to discuss how to best learn English. So, if mistakes are gold, there's probably the best way for certain people to use those mistakes in the best environment. So, let's discuss, Edita. There are differences between learning English in a group versus one-on-one.
All right. Well, generally speaking, learning a language, you can do it on your own. That's something that, I sell language services, but I will always say that if you want to do it on your own, you can. It's just going to take a lot of time. And you need to be a very disciplined person when it comes to accountability. And accountability is one of the main things that sells groups because, okay, maybe for you a teacher is enough, but if you have a group of people, especially if you have something in common, like I teach entrepreneurs, and they will have similar challenges and they will feel seen and heard when others talk about these challenges, right? So I can relate to a student of mine one on one, but when five people are telling you very similar things, then you might start seeing them in a different way, and they will all say it from their own perspective. So when it comes to having that bit of extra learning, connecting, networking, groups are perfect for that. And especially if confidence is your main issue, right? You spoke English here and there, you understand quite a lot of English, you already consume a lot of content in English, but you might pause when it's your turn to speak. This is where groups are perfect. They're exposure therapy. You have to speak with other people, in front of other people, and practice in a setting that's very similar to real life.
Mm.
In fact, when I work with entrepreneurs, they might sell each other services or products. So it is real life, right? It's not just an invitation. You might have a business deal happening in the classroom. And this is where groups shine.
Absolutely. How big are your groups, by the way?
About five people normally.
That's some sweet spot between a large group and one-on-one. So how come it's you have settled for five? Why is that your favorite size?
For me, at this point, at least as an educator, this is a perfect balance where I can let everyone express themselves fully.
Mm.
So they have enough space to listen to others. They have four different perspectives from the other students and then an extra from me. So there's enough variety there. There's enough challenge, but it still feels intimate.
Mm. I love that fact that people can actually sell each other services and goods right on the spot. Maybe do they think about their English at that moment when they are speaking about their services?
No, they're probably thinking, oh my God, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say are the most are the typical situation that trigger us to to get into our head to become anxious about English? Obviously, if it's not sales, what other situations are those?
um, when it comes to like the language situations, not being able to find that one perfect word that you're buffering on, that's
Mm.
normally what my students tell me. Oh, I want to say something and I have the word in Croatian, and then suddenly my mind goes blank and I feel, I don't know, 8 years old suddenly. We all kind of become smaller. We all become non-experts. And of course, that's not true. What I try to train my students on is a very important skill, and that's flexibility. If you don't have that one specific perfect word, there are ways around it. There are ways of saying this differently.
Can you tell us an example?
Okay, visibility. Let's say we are talking about a podcast about visibility, and I can't remember this word. So I go, so I have this podcast where we talk about this idea that other people see you, and that you are present in front of other people, something like that, right? So I might use simpler words to say the same thing. That was
Yeah.
the first thing that came to mind because of course our podcast is on my mind.
Let's say hi again to Darko Mareš, who is your partner in crime on Seen and Heard podcasts, who is applauding for your straight A for your effort. And people, if you don't already subscribe to Seen and Heard podcast on YouTube and on LinkedIn, you can click this or you can scan this QR code to listen and to watch to Edita and Darko talk about visibility in English on camera live every Tuesday, every Thursday, 8:30 Central European time. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes, amazing. Yes, I
you did an
come.
amazing job. You're excellent as always.
uh, I have a small, cliff notes aside so that I have prepared for this show because it's my first show in English, so I have to be prepared. Yes, people, seen and heard. By the way, wonderful name. I loved it from the start when you launched it. So great work. Um,
Thank you.
Anna says that her trigger situation that she's aware of is when a native speaker is present in the room. That's interesting. Your comment, Edita.
Right, we talked about this already. There's this idea that a native speaker knows everything, that they're going to judge you on your mistakes, which, unless they're a very harsh and person you don't want to have business with, they definitely won't. They probably won't notice them, because how many mistakes in Russian or Croatian or any of the first languages in the chat do you actually notice? How much do you know about that, really? And is that the purpose of your meeting, especially if we're talking about business? And I love business English because it is so practical. It's about whatever we've gathered to do today. It's not about our English. It's not about the perfect word.
I wonder, Edita, who would make you freeze if he or she was with you in the room? Maybe somebody you look up to or somebody else that you think you would be self conscious about speaking English with them.
That's a really good question.
I
I'm
have two
not
people in
sure.
mind for myself. I'm not going to say who they are, but I wonder who are your people?
I don't think that my English would make me freeze in front
Hmm?
of anyone. It would be maybe my lack of expertise in many things. So there's a lot of people that know much more than I do about many things. So that would be a very long list. But when it comes to my English, I've defeated that fear. It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about something else. Yeah. Sometimes people speak such beautiful language, not necessarily English, but other languages that we understand. We just, I just sit there, I just listen to them and say, my gosh, how good this person can speak English. I wish I was able to express myself in my language, in my native language, as good as they. So sometimes I freeze. My English is not that good, but I'm great that
It is, it is.
yeah,
It very much is.
what would I say? Sometimes I struggle to find the right words. I wish my accent was better. I'm actually trying to learn British accent lately. I don't know why. Maybe because I've never
Which
learned it.
British accent?
Yes, that's a good one. I would love to learn Scottish. I love Scottish series, and I would love to learn to speak Scottish as closely possible as to what's in my ear. But enough about me. Tihana Cekovic from Zagreb says hi. She asks, "How do you group students based on their knowledge?"
I don't normally. I ask for a minimum sort of level just for business purposes. If you are a complete beginner, then you probably won't be able to make a deal unless you're selling accommodation in Makarska. So it really depends what we're trying to do here.
Yes. You could have a group only for people working at the seaside selling stuff to tourists.
I
Yes.
love having different levels of language in my group because that's life. You're
Mm,
not going to group your clients according to their knowledge, will you? You
mm,
will group them according to their motivation to buy your services, perhaps. And this is what gathers my students.
mm,
Equal fears, but perhaps different levels of experience when it comes to their business, different levels of English, um, enough English to follow, what we're saying. So it's normally not complete beginners, but otherwise, if you can form a simple sentence, if you can understand most of what we're saying, then you can do it and you can benefit from group work.
mm. Great suggestion from Yurai. He says the basis of everything is reading books and enriching the vocabulary. Absolutely, Yurai. I love digital books for that reason because I can click and see the dictionary when I don't understand some particular word. Do you read books for English learning, Edita, today, or or have you ventured into other fields?
Um, Books will enrich your vocabulary regardless of which language it is. So I read books for enjoyment. I read books to deepen my knowledge. And of course, yeah, learning vocabulary is part of it. Actually, I need to read more in Croatian because I want to I want to be more sophisticated in my first language as well. And I would add that it's not only about reading books, because sometimes my clients forget that, maybe they don't have time to read novels these days because they're struggling with doing 700 things in their business and they feel ashamed of that sometimes. But the fact is, we're reading all the time.
Yes.
You're reading right now these comments, you are exposed to social media all the time, articles, newsletters, descriptions of all kinds, text messages, emails. This is all reading, and this is all going to help you.
Would you recommend writing for learning a language?
Yes, absolutely. Writing is, like speaking, a very productive exercise, and it means that you will order your thoughts on paper. And with writing, you will have time to think about what you want to express. So it's a great practice for speaking as well. It's a great way to express your creativity as well, because again, you have that time to express something clearly.
Mm. I remember my first blog post in English, which I wrote in 2009. I've been writing it for the in no I spent my entire day writing it, at least 8 productive hours, getting my thoughts on paper, editing it, perfecting it. It took an entire day, and every other blog post was so much faster, and it actually unlocked everything for me in English language because I didn't write in English before.
Nice. Yeah, it takes that bit of struggle, right?
Yeah,
I like to say, group or one-to-one lessons have to be fun to a certain degree. You have to enjoy the process, but you also have to struggle a bit. You have to be challenged.
exactly. Somebody asked me on a recent podcast, what are we going to do when all the struggle is removed by AI and by the tools that make our lives absolutely comfortable? Do you ever think about that?
Um, I'm not overly worried because I think it's in human nature to seek improvement, but we are going to become lazier about certain things because we have already. So I think it will take a greater push, maybe more motivation to do certain things.
Yeah, exactly. We also love to struggle. We seek out not only pleasure, but also struggle. So I don't think we're going to remove that anytime soon. Natasha Martic is with us. Hello, Natasha. Thanks for coming to our show. She says, a native speaker never judge me, but people from my country, Croatia, who almost all speak perfect English, judge a lot. Interesting. We all have the same opportunity, but they use that and learn English excellent. And I do not use that opportunity. Your comment, Edita.
Well, first of all, Natasha was part of my group, so she is using her opportunities. She's a bit shy about it. There's a lot of work to be done, but she is being brave and she is using her language, which I'm very proud of. And the first part, people are people. There are all kinds of people, native, non-native. I think a lot of native speakers might be aware that you speak several languages and maybe they'll be intimidated by that. And that's something to remember, right? You're a person who speaks more than one language. So in many cases, you know more than them. Doesn't mean that a native speaker doesn't also speak other languages, but that's often the case, that they know that you're trying and they appreciate that. And people who judge a lot probably come from their own place of insecurity, whatever that is. So that's on them.
Yeah,
It's not on
exactly.
you.
Exactly. Well spoken. We have another question for our audience. The question of the day is, what would convince you that you really are good enough to speak English, to appear on a podcast? Or if you have some event coming that you feel self conscious about, maybe I shouldn't go there, I shouldn't speak there. What would convince you that you really are good enough? Tell us in the comments. And Edita, I want to know another thing regarding group versus one-on-one. Let's repeat once more. What would be the best situation for people who should learn English one-on-one? Can you please repeat it for me once again?
For one-on-one, yeah, I don't think we talked about that category actually. Yeah, to simplify from my point of view, maybe some people in the comments can add their own experiences. Groups are good for width and confidence and accountability, and one-on-one is good for depth. So if you want to practice something super specific, let's say you are preparing for a presentation and you want to go over this presentation, maybe 10 times, right? It's a really big opportunity for you, and you want to have another set of eyes, and you want to practice certain vocabulary, certain constructions. You want to make sure that when people ask you questions, you're ready. That's the scary one for most people, right? We can practice the presentation quite easily, but give me some questions. What can I say? What can I do? What are some tips? That would be a perfect example of something to do one-on-one. It's very particular. It asks for a lot of repetition. It asks for going into something very deeply and in detail. So that's a one-on-one. I have a lot of students with very specific plans that want to do something like that. They want to really work on one specific thing, drill it until it's second nature. And this is, again, better one-on-one for sure. Sometimes it can be a matter of really high levels of anxiety. This is a difficult one to measure sometimes, but you can't really push people until they're ready. So, sometimes people can tell me, I'm really not capable of going into a group right now, and I will honor that. We can't be productive if the person is going to fall apart, turn off camera and microphone, and decide, I never want to do this again.
Yep.
So that would be another example.
Have you ever had a student who thought they were ready, but you told them, I'm sorry, there's some practice ahead of you?
Actually, not really. Not really. I don't tend to. The thing is, if people are confident already, they won't come for lessons.
Oh.
That's it. That's why I speak to the perfectionists who I understand, who are delaying things because they want to be at a certain level, because they have very high expectations from themselves, normally much higher than other people have from them, and much higher than they have from other people. This is my audience. These are people who take language lessons. So I can't say that anyone's been that brave. I really wish that one of my students would go, you know what? Let's not prepare. I'm good enough. I would celebrate that for days.
Oh yeah, and I also want to repeat once again that your podcast seen and heard, let me put that on the screen. Yes, we have your group course on Edusa, but we're going to talk about it a bit later. Your podcast is a great place where people can practice speaking in front of a live audience. It's not millions of people. It's probably not gonna be in front of a million audience. But can you tell us about a little about when people graduate from your treatment? How come they come to your show? Do you invite them? Are they volunteering?
I think one person has volunteered so far.
Yes to that person.
Yes to that person. That wasn't one of my students. That was a different target group. So I have to invite people. I have to encourage people to come. I have to make sure that they understand that we don't have a million people listening yet, even though we should.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it's going to make their lives easier, because if you can do that, you can do a lot of other things.
Some of my guests, I've been doing this live podcast for 5 years. I've never had a guest freeze completely. They do speak in their native language, but they accept my invitation because they want to experience something different. And I would say to everyone watching who has not yet appeared on your podcast and is a student of yours, this is an opportunity to send a message to Edita and say, I'm going to volunteer. I will not wait to be asked. It's a good opportunity.
Yes, please. Pitch yourselves.
Yes. Darko says we tend to be too negative towards ourselves and do not give enough credit to us. That's absolutely true. Edita, why are we so Why are we so perfectionist? Where does this come from?
I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I would say insecurity, childhood experiences, unrealistic views, black and white thinking. I think there's a lot of things conflated there. And I'm trying to find out myself. And I can't say that I have all the answers.
Yeah, yeah. So let's speak about fear. We have talked about insecurity, lack of confidence. The basis of all that is some kind of fear, and fear can, stop us from venturing into the world and taking all those business opportunity for ourselves. What is actually how should we help ourselves to conquer that fear?
Exposure therapy. Since we were mentioning psychology, a big shout out to Darko, because he helped me conquer my fear of camera. Oh. And the way he did it is just by saying, yeah, whatever, we're going live.
Yeah, whatever, we're going live. That's a great exposure therapy. Kudos to you, Darko. We should all have a Darko in our lives to tell us, yeah, whatever, we're going live. I might write this down. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, I strive to be a Darko in my English lessons and, pushing people to do that thing that they are procrastinating about. And there's no other way. I don't see any other way. Again, psychologists, please correct me if you know something better. If people are not ready, if they need to do some self-talk before that, if they need to settle on a goal, because sometimes you think it's fear, but it's actually something else. You don't really want to do this for whatever reason. It doesn't feel authentic. And, there's a lot of complexity when it comes to us human beings. But the straightforward answer, the one that works on most people, when they're ready and they know what their goals are and what the motivations are, then do it. Do it imperfectly. Do it many times. You will get better with time. It's almost impossible not to improve, which is why I'm confident about selling my services. I think 1 hour of speaking is going to make you a better speaker. It's not going to give you another Cambridge level. It's not going to make you perfect. But it will give you practice for that one word, 2 words that you've used today that you haven't used in many years, and now suddenly, they're fresh again. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better, and that's good enough.
Amazing. Practice makes better, and 1 hour can improve your English enough to be noticeable. But Edita, it's very important to set goals. Why is that?
Because they make our efforts concrete. Because then, one, we have something to check. Okay, so you told me 15 weeks ago that your goal with this course is to pitch yourself to a podcast. That's what you want to do. You want to be visible. You want to relax finally in speaking online. So that's something we can check in 15 weeks and see, okay, are we there? If we're not there, we kind of are. You have to do this because otherwise I'll come for you.
Okay.
So there's one thing for sure. Another thing is that you can put things into perspective, because then we're not chasing this perfect grammar. We're not chasing these perfect words. We're chasing the words and the grammar that you need for this particular goal. And that's much more tangible. That's much easier, much, much easier. And then that can be done. Then it's achievable. It's also something to keep you accountable and motivated on your own, right? Not just for me checking something. It's for you to see where you are in that process. It might happen that in the 3rd week you do it. you know what? Oh, this person wrote to me. This is an opportunity. So then we can switch to something else. And this leaves us room for growth. So it's all about getting perspective, motivation, and accountability.
Hmm. Can you give us some examples and stories from your work with students? What are some of the concrete goals your students came with and actually made into a reality later?
I see Natasha in the comments. She's one bright example in
Yes.
getting a better price for her services. And she
Oh.
deserves more, and she should do that again very soon.
Yes, Natasha says it's true. I'm a living example. 1 hour with Edita or a few, and already goal achieved. So she set big. So she set higher prices for her services. What else?
I have a student who put English language voiceovers on her Instagram videos. Very concrete. It might sound small, but she was really afraid of that. She didn't want to sound cringe. She didn't want to hear her voice, especially not in English. And that was a great accomplishment for her.
Hmm.
Then students being on Seen and Heard as guests. Wow, coming live with your ideas, being so vulnerable. That's a huge win, a huge win. One of my favorites. Then I have students going on interviews for freelancing roles and landing these positions. I actually have a student recently who did that, and then she said no to the offer, which I'm super proud of because she deserves more.
Exactly.
But she did it and she got recognized.
Hmm.
Um, Students trying to create their own workshops in English. They already have it in Croatian, but trying to translate it to English and making progress on that. These are
Hmm.
some of the top of my head.
Hmm. Now you've given me an idea for my own workshops that
Mm.
I don't know what to do with once the workshop is over in 2 months' time. Now you've given me an idea. Okay, enough about me again. I want to speak about your courses, Edita. You have a group course, Expanded English, called Expanded English. It's available on our business platform, Eduza, and you can scan the QR code right here below me. What you will see is the landing page of the course, which you can book online. If you don't speak Croatian, just tell the browser to translate it automatically. It's not going to be perfect, just like we are not, but it's going to be good enough for understanding. Tell us about the course, Edita, please.
It's a 15-week course for entrepreneurs, freelancers, and people who feel that way. I'm including those now as well. We are practicing marketing, sales, pitching yourself, using some tools like AI to help you on that path. And, most importantly, we are working on your goal together. So we're going into width so that you feel more secure in most of these areas that entrepreneurs need, but also at the same time checking in on you if you are doing what's needed to get to your specific goal. So it's a combination of a personalized and a group approach. We exchange ideas. We use imperfect English to connect with each other, to network. So it's not just about learning English, it's also about expanding your network, getting in touch with other people, understanding that other people are in your position, which is, I think, key to confidence and really pushing ahead. And it's 1 hour per week. It's all online. You get some notes before and after. Homework is optional, apart from that one goal that you have.
Okay.
I love saying that because I've been told by some psychologist clients that homework is a word that shouldn't be used. Challenges only.
Challenges. We love challenges because it makes us feel more powerful. I don't have to do work. I will challenge myself.
Yeah,
Great.
you will have at least one challenge for yourself during this course, and the next cohort is during the summer.
Mhm.
So hopefully you have a bit more time then for something like this, and we can have a lot of sunshine and the seaside in the background as we're doing it, which helps. It does
Yes.
help. You will be a bit more relaxed, probably. And I would like to say, if you're not sure if this is for you, maybe it's the first time you're hearing about it, please contact me. We can have a little chat, informal, free, no strings attached. I'm not a pushy seller, so don't be afraid.
Absolutely. And there's a button on Eduza that says Ask the Educator. You can always send your question via Eduza, or you can contact Edita directly over LinkedIn and over your website, which I'm going to put here on the screen so that people can see. It's learned-english.com. It's another place where people can book your courses. What has not been said today and that needs to be said?
Oh my, I'm not sure.
Let me prompt you with a comment from the audience. Sara Ušić says it's about repetition. Is it about repetition, Edita?
Repetition is a big part of it, for sure. But it's also about doing it the first time. Because
Okay.
again, sometimes my students think about this repetition and doing something for the next 10 years before they're ready, but you have to start with that first steps. And there are things that you will do very well even though you haven't consciously repeated them many times, because language is very special. You don't know how much you've used it already. You don't, have this mental Excel sheet. So there are words that you will be able to command really confidently, even though you think, oh, how do I know this word? It's something that you've picked up along the way.
Yeah. Sometimes I speak the language in my head without actually verbalizing it, and it's an internal world where I speak and speak and speak, and I have caught myself, of course, mispronouncing some words which I've never spoken out loud before. But yeah, we all do a lot more than we give ourselves credit. So it's about repetition, but people, it's really about starting. So once again, let me tell you that you should check out and give yourself the opportunity to, enroll in a course. Maybe you can also pitch yourself to a podcast where you can be visible in English in front of a camera. Like Darko said, yeah, whatever, we're going live. So if you're that kind of a person, Edita and Darko are your best co hosts. And one other comment from the public. It's by Mihaela Jekic. She says it's about creating safe space to express yourself. Let's end on that note. Edita, your comment.
Absolutely. We do need a safe space to practice before we go out there, especially if we are perfectionists. But you mentioned the voice in your head. That's something that a lot of people struggle with as well. Like the English in my head and the English that comes out of my mouth, they are enemies. It's something completely different. But it's always going to be that way until you open your mouth. You need to do it many times. That's the repetition part, not in the same way, but in many different ways for your brain and your mouth to connect. Because if it's all in your head, if it's all in this perfect fantasy world, it's not going to translate to reality, and it's not going to take you one step closer to your goals.
Absolutely. So, people, scan this QR code and give yourself the opportunity to practice with Edita. Edita, thank you very much for your time. It's been a wonderful conversation. I am happy with my English, although I have caught myself so many times during this conversation thinking to myself, you should have said that better. It's not perfect. But on the note of today, I can do business and I can host a podcast, even if my English is not perfect. So I want people to remember this when they think about you, Edita, although your English is absolutely perfect.
No, it isn't. And it doesn't need to be.
Exactly. I wanted
But
you
you're
to
a
be.
great host, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Dita. So thank you for once again for this time. You're going to be a guest on our shows several times during this year. So people, please like and subscribe on YouTube so you can get a notification when Edita is the guest again, and many other wonderful experts that we have on Edusa. This is everything from us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, people, you've heard our guest Edita Bandur. You can contact her via LinkedIn, via her website, learned-english.com, or just simply go on Edusa and scan this QR code again. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for everyone from Georgia, from Croatia, from Germany, and other parts of this wonderful world. Like and subscribe and be with us the next Tuesday at noon. Bye-bye.